2021 so far proving a very momentous year for the confectionery sector. We speak to Canada's Ross Chocolates about how it's built the business up, specialising in the diabetic market and looking ahead to the rest of 2021, which may be posing a number of challenges for the industry, but the business believes there's plenty of hope ahead. So, as a starting point, could you please tell us how surprised you've been in terms of how the healthy confectionery trend appears to have taken off over the past 12 months?
Yes and no. We've certainly seen the trends as far as obesity continue to rise, diabetes continue to rise, and aging population, which really contributes to both of those, has really pointed to more of these kind of health concerns that are needing to be addressed. But certainly a movement towards living healthier lifestyles is pretty evident wherever you go, is what I've seen. However, sometimes what people say they want and what they actually buy is two different things. But we've seen that trend actually moving towards where people are putting their money where their mouth is. We see that actually in just some of the different areas that are opening up. For example, I have an interview a presentation tomorrow with a large U.S. convenience store. A number of years ago, that would have been really challenging for a sugar-free chocolate company like ourselves to get. It's also one we probably wouldn't have pursued either, because that's just not our market. That consumer tended to be, I'm there for gas, cigarettes, and some snacks maybe. But now you see a lot of fresh food items, you see fresh fruit, and again, a growing number of sugar-free products that are on the line. So, this is an area that is really changing, and it's just one of many. Certainly when I've talked to buyers in the past, they look at the sugar-free as a niche area, and they might have a small section of sugar-free chocolates in their category somewhere in the store. But now we're seeing that expanding. Ross Chocolates, for example, our company, we tended to be actually the pharmacies of stores by the diabetes supplies. We just figured we'd rather play in that small pool instead of the big wall of chocolate that you often see in confection in major retails. But again, that's changed. The more brands are having chocolates with lower sugar, and they are in the main convection areas now. So we're seeing a lot of, and not just natural stores, but also the larger retailers as well.
So from what you're saying there, it seems to be the case that since we caught up in 2019 in Chicago, that events have really moved forward for the business in terms of industry response and consumers really taking to your product range. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. It's much more category buyers are looking at our products and looking at the sugar-free category as a whole much more seriously than what they had before.
Brilliant. And do you think that the pandemic has in any way accelerated that trend at all?
Yeah, in some ways, we really see it has. People are baking a lot more at home, for example, and they want to use sugar-free chocolate with that. So, we've just recently coming out with a milk and dark chocolate sugar-free baking chips, for that. And that's certainly an industry that's really been growing. It was growing before the pandemic, but it's certainly taken off this last year. I think people were very conscious about being trapped at home with and having, sitting on the couch and eating snacks and watching TV and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think a lot of people have made a conscious effort to avoid that and to really make some use this opportunity to make some positive changes in their health and their diet. Not everybody, but certainly a surprisingly number have.
And that's just coming to the nub of your own range there. It's been designed as a diabetic chocolate. Can you explain the history behind that? Because I believe it started in the mid 90s and how it's expanded in those couple of decades.
Yeah, it's a great story. A guy named Bob Ross, who was a diabetic. Actually, as soon as he got his diagnosis, came home frustrated, upset. He couldn't have chocolate, which he loved. So he got to work on making a great chocolate recipe. Uh, 22 years later, we were still the number one Canadian sugar-free chocolate company in Canada, and we've just recently launched in the U.S. and gaining some market share there as well. Um, but one of the things we've made changes as long as time's gone on. The original recipe had a lot of maltitol in it, which is very popular alternative sweetener. It is because it tastes great and it's very inexpensive. But there's some issues that can come with that as well. Consumers with sensitive systems, for example, can get a lot of gas, a lot of bloating, worse. So we really experimented a lot with a lot of different sweeteners, and we came with a stevia erythritol blend with our new line of chocolate, and it's really sidesteps all those issues. Consumers can really eat as much as they want without having to worry about the digestive and gas issues there with that. One of the offshoots of that too, Neill, is that slow carb. Because of that, the sweetener base that we use, it's a keto friendly, which has really opened the door to a whole new unintended market for us as well.
Indeed, and having written quite a bit on stevia in recent years, I know it's continually evolving as a sweetening agent there. So do you believe that it has further potential in terms of matching conventional ranges of chocolates?
I think so. A lot of sweetening or stevia products I've tried in the past. I don't think they quite had it right because there was a bitterness that really I associated, and a lot of other people do too. I've talked to people at trade shows and things where they're like, "Oh no, I do not like stevia," and that's true. If it's done too much stevia, for example, then you really notice it. I think we've worked really hard to find the right blend with our chocolate so there's absolutely no aftertaste, and companies that can do that, I think are going to have a really positive product out there.
That's good to hear indeed. And as for your domestic market in Canada, what has the response been in recent years to your series?
It's great. We've been able to expand our line. And so we originally started with bars, and now we've moved out to pouches there. And as I said, the baking chips are coming out, and so the retailers keep making room for us. So obviously they like what we're doing. Certainly looking down the road, we've what are we going to come out with next? And so we've looked at putting together a whole nut um, line. So it'd be sugar-free, chocolate covered almonds, hazelnuts, things like that. I offer a little bit of protein as well.
Surprising. Excellent. But just looking at conditions at the moment, we're still amidst the pandemic. Can you explain how Ross Chocolates has responded to that in terms of how you have adapted your own business?
Yeah, it's certainly the Zoom calls have really helped a lot, and really we find that I think a lot of other companies as well as buyers have really found that, hey, this is a pretty good way to do it. You save a lot of money, a lot of time, you know, doing this, and it's much more efficient. It's something that we've been able to connect with an awful lot of companies this last 12 months in such a short amount of time. And so that's one thing that's helped, looking at marketing ahead. I'm not going to be spending the same amount of money on the shows like where we met originally, as opposed, more so going to Zoom. But also, you've been forced to really look at your online game and how you're connecting with consumers there. So we've really started to focus and invest in more so this year than any past year on the online market, and really dialing down and finding out who our consumer is, where they're buying, why they're buying. Are they buying because it's a healthy lifestyle that they like living, or are they buying because they're trying to correct maybe a health issue that they've gotten themselves into? So different reasons, different motivations.
Now that's intriguing. And the diabetic market itself, is that one that is growing in Canada and the US? Have you found that's the case?
Yeah, unfortunately, it is. I mean, we've seen that for a number of years. In fact, I was just had some meetings with Mexican companies a few weeks ago, and Mexican government, they put a sugar tax on products going in and being produced in Mexico there. So to really try to limit the amount of sugar products that are available there. And the more expensive you make something, the less people are going to want to buy it if it's unless it's a very good quality.
No, thank you for that. And just looking at present challenges, what would you say that the biggest test to your business is at the moment?
Um, I guess what I referred to earlier, just on getting to new buyers to look at our product, just because they're so focused on their existing lines and making sure that flow continues. And it's bringing in new products is kind of takes away from that, and it's additional work. So that's been a challenge with us. I work with, I have a lot of brokers and sales reps within distributors that I work with, and they've pretty much been, as all of us, been at home and unable to get out to the market and to the retailers and get face to face like they usually do. So that's been challenging for us as far as expanding the retail space that we have down there.
Absolutely, I can see that. And in terms of just devising new recipes for chocolate ranges, how challenging is that in a specialist market like the diabetic chocolate one?
Well, you know what? When people like chocolate flavors in regular chocolate, they're going to like it in sugar-free. So, there's a lot of salted caramel and certainly almond and hazelnuts. That's always been popular and always continued to be. We're certainly looking at that though, and right now devising some new flavors that we're hoping will appeal to our market. But again, what they like in regular chocolate, they're going to like in sugar-free.
And so, looking ahead in regards to the rest of this year, do you see some sense of recovery happening in the months ahead?
I certainly hope so. There's some great shows on the East Coast that we would like to take part in if all is clear. Um, but as far as looking ahead for this year, we've got new products. We've got a great representation right now in the U.S. and certainly with our online sales have really increased, and so that's been good. People come and buy once, great, but when you see them come back over and over online, you know you have something special.
Indeed.